It's one of the seminars. They're gonna do owls. I think other critters. We've had several since I've been, well, a couple of them since I got here, but I haven't been filming them yet. I'm not really going to do too much filming. I just want to show you the owl. I think it's pretty cool.
An eye injury. They did end up having to remove the eye.
Name's Eugene.
She needs long-term care. So she is at an education center. So that is her job, is to educate in order to conserve her species. So we're going to talk a little bit about wildlife rehabilitation and some of the programs that we have and that the city of Largo has available. I am getting over a cold, so don't mind my raspy, 1-800 phone number voice. So the history of Owl's Nest. Owl's Nest is actually in its third year. We were established by a retired zookeeper who FWC and U.S. Fish and Game came to and said, hey, can you raise a couple bunnies for us? And she said, sure. And by the end of the year, we had done over 2,000 animals. So it was just a couple of bunnies. But when she started, we had 5 volunteers. We're now just over 100 volunteers, and we serve 5 counties. So we are based out in Roseboro. We have subcommittees in Pasco and Pinellas and in Hernando. And we also serve Polk County because there hasn't been a whole lot of resources available to the area. So they keep pushing us further towards you guys. So if we come out to a call, please be patient with us. We're driving from Tampa. But we see thousands at this point of animals every year, ranging from little tiny hummingbirds all the way up to bobcats and foxes. We do also deal with reptiles. We've had different snakes come in. One had a broken jaw that had to be wired, and it had to be tube fed while it went through the rehab process. And we're also on the Gopher Tortoise Commission, so we do a lot with gopher tortoises and law enforcement with that. You'd be surprised the things we see that happen to gopher tortoises. People do some horrendous things, and I don't understand. Was the tortoise attacking you or your child? Like, it's a gopher tortoise. I don't get it. But, so can you hold the microphone for me? No? So we also do a lot of educational programs and community outreach, because a lot of what we see are things that are preventable injuries, entanglements, poisoning, imprinting. One of the casuals we have with us today, somebody found as a baby and thought they knew what they were doing. Then unfortunately they did not. And it thinks it's like a cockatoo now. It wants to sit with you and talk to you and play, and that's not conducive to going back out into the wild. So wildlife rehabilitation. It is caring for sick, injured, and orphaned wildlife in order to give them what they need to go back into the wild and conserve their species, so that your grandkids and their kids all have wildlife and a healthy ecosystem to be part of. It's vital for data collection. We monitor species, what's affecting them, so that we can determine what laws might need to be passed. If we see that we have a lot of birds coming in with poisoning from rodenticides, maybe we need to look more closely at the rodenticides. If we're seeing a shift in when we're getting rid of tide birds, we need to look at fertilizers. There's actually a fertilizer restriction during our rainy months during the summer. Many people don't know that. That's because that runoff from our storms and the fertilizer leads to increased tide balloons, which is fatal to a lot of animals in our ecosystem. So we collect a lot of data. Back in January, we actually got called in by the city of St. Pete. They were having some sort of epidemic in one of their bays, and they were having a mass die-off. We pulled 36 pelicans that were their condition out, and we coordinated all of the care for them over a 2-week period of time, where we ran several tests and they passed to get necropsies done to determine that there was some sort of leak causing botulism to get into that water source. So then St. Pete knew what was the cause, and they were able to address it before it became a health concern for the human residents of the area. And we also, West Nile is something that we can see in a bird, and then we'll know it's in the area, so they can continue spraying for mosquitoes and increasing control that way. Alright, so a lot of people stop at the table and they say, ooh, how do I get one of those birds? You can't. What we do is regulated both by the state and by the federal government. So in order to work with mammals and reptiles, you need a state permit. And here in Florida, we have one of the stricter states, which is good because we're a very wild place and we want to make sure people know what they're getting into. So in order to do mammals and reptiles, you have to have 1,000 hours hands-on working with a permitted rehabilitator, doing rehab on the species you're going to be working with. You also have to have a vet that signs off, saying that they agree to provide you support and help you acquire medications that require prescriptions. And you have to have your plans. You have to show the enclosures you're going to be using. They come out, they do an inspection, and we just had our welcome to Florida. You have to have a disaster plan outlining what you will do for every animal in case of any kind of emergency, be it a facility fire or a hurricane. So Eddie, one of our volunteers at the table, he is one of our lead raccoon raisers, and he is in Apollo Beach. He was in an evacuation zone, but you can't pack raccoons up and take them to the pet shelters. They don't let you do that. So we had to come up with the plans prior to the storm ever getting here for what are we going to do in these situations. So we were able to get everybody crated up and into a stronger building to ride out the storm. That also involved bringing 7 spotted skunks into the garage because it's a block reinforced room rather than outside in the enclosure where they were getting acclimated to the elements because thermal was not something they need to get acclimated to. So from there, if you would like a federal permit to work with birds, you have to do another 100 hours of hands-on work with birds that you're going to be working with. So if you, like, I really love owls, I want to work with raptors, it's 100 hours with raptors. You want to work with crows, it's 100 hours with corvids, 100 hours with songbirds, 100 hours with your seabirds or your shorebirds. So it can add up to be quite a bit of time. And when you're getting them, it's really hard to track them because you're so busy doing the rehab that sitting down to an Excel document and typing it all up is hard to remember sometimes. But once you have those permits, you are allowed to be rescuing and rehabilitating the wildlife. So I'll be back up. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth between a couple presentations. So, why is it important that we permit? It's important because we've got a very diverse ecosystem here in Florida, and it's hard even for us with 100 volunteers to always identify everything. We have a lot of resources because we get migratory birds too. So we get birds that we've only seen 1 month out of the year come from Florida, and having to figure out what they are and what their diet is and what care they need. It also goes with providing the proper care. We are able to repair ghost tortoises' shell. We use dental grade equipment to do it so that it is completely safe and non-toxic for them. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're just like, hey, it's a shell, it's like a fingernail, I'm gonna just patch it up with some E6000, it's toxic and it can harm the animal. So making sure that the people who are getting animals know what they're doing and they're not imprinting them or accidentally poisoning them or anything like that. You also want to work with local rehabilitators because much like when we travel, we might be a carrier for disease. Reptiles have salmonella in their gut a lot of times. If they give it to us, we can get sick. So that happens with the other animals as well. If Eugene has a parasite that she's had her whole life and it doesn't bother her and we release her elsewhere, she may introduce that parasite that the birds aren't immune to and they can't work with. So it's important that we keep things local. Not only that, if, for example, there's a group in Tampa that rescues on the permit of Audubon and Maitland. Maitland has an amazing program. They do a lot of really good things, but they get a whole lot of birds that are from their area. And then those birds are released in that area. So it's becoming very saturated with birds of prey, which are going to deplete the prey population while there's not enough food for everyone. So it's really important that we all work together to make sure those animals come back, but keeping it local allows the resources to stay in the area. So there are several different permitted people in the area. You can get on the FWC website to look for ones in your county, for state and for federal, but we do serve up here. So a few stories. We've got lots of pictures you can come over to the table and see. We had a vulture that a call came in that we had a vulture that was shot, and this vulture was actually shot twice with archery equipment. So it had 2 arrows through it. And in case you don't know, vultures are incredibly fast birds. They don't need to fly to survive. A lot of times when they're down and they've got a broken wing, as long as it's not infected, we leave them be if it's non-repairable, because they can survive on the ground. So this vulture was in an open area, and it took about an hour of chasing it to get it into some bushes where we were able to grab it. We were able to remove the 2 arrows. One had entered at the back of the head and gone right along the base of the skull, and the other had gone through the meat on the side of the body. And we had taken him to one of our vet partners, got the arrows out, got everything clean, and the next morning we went to Busch Gardens, and they actually took metal feeding tubes and put them through the wounds to take him in for an x-ray. Luckiest bird in the world. It did not hit anything vital. So 5 days of antibiotics and honey bandages, because if we ate them, we wanted to make sure it was safe. He was ready to go. So he actually went to a falconer for test flight, and he failed because he'd had the arrows in for quite some time, and he'd already had the atrophy where the muscles had started to degrade. So he did go to Homosassa to a different rehabilitator who had a flight facility available for him to get some exercise. And once he was able to do those flights, he did come back to the Tampa area. We did not release him where he was found, however, because we knew it was a dangerous situation. So he was placed in Hillsborough County Park, where his safety is protected by the rangers, and they were able to find that individual. A lot of times with pellets, we can't track down who did it because it's buckshot. So they touched the cartridge, but they didn't touch the individual BBs. But with these arrows, they not only touched them, they had custom feathers on them. So they were busted. We had a bobcat come in about a year ago. We had several bobcats. This one in particular, they were building a new Costco, and they put it right where there was a large wilderness area. So they took out a bunch of trees, and we had a bobcat get hit on a 6-lane road. And it was reported as a carcass, and they just asked that we go pick it up because they were getting a lot of 911 calls. So we got there, and there was shallow breathing. We went ahead, we got it, took it to a vet who gave it some medications, gave it some pain things, and as the pain wore off and it came out of shock, it woke up. And it had a broken humerus, and they were able to go in and place a rod. It was about a 2-hour surgery though, because mammals can be very challenging, and it went through rehab and was able to be re-released. We did recently have another bobcat get hit by a car, and a bystander decided that they knew what they were doing, and they put the bobcat in their car to take it to the vet. They got very fortunate. It did not come out of its shock until they were in the parking lot. So the thing they crashed into was a median instead of another vehicle. But we already had volunteers in around, so it's really important that you let the people get there who know what they're doing, and don't try to mess with wildlife. It can be very dangerous. We had a bald eagle from Sumner County. So it's not our area of coverage, but every once in a while we get a call and they beg us, can you please go? So they took a 2-hour drive up to this landfill, and this special circumstance was an oiled bird. There are lots of rehab facilities who have experience with oiled birds, as long as they're shorebirds, because that's where you usually see the oil spills. This individual happened to be a bald eagle that had gotten into the landfill and into some fatty pile that was degrading and got oil and grease all over it. So they needed somebody who knew the procedures for washing a bird to remove the oil, and someone who could handle bald eagles. It was a very messy procedure. One of us had to hold and restrain the eagle while it got washed. So we took turns getting incredibly nasty. while it went through the process of being cleaned up and then to the flight cages before it was able to go back and be released. So all of those animals were releasable. There are times, however, where we have animals that cannot, for whatever reason, be released. Eugene is a case like that. Eugene actually did not come through us. Eugene's been in managed care longer than we've been around. But animals can lose eyes, and sometimes they can adapt, sometimes they can't. Sometimes they need wing amputations. We have a red-shouldered hawk with us today who had to have her metacarpals, which are like the hand portion of the arm, amputated. So she was non-releasable. So when we have animals like that, as long as they still have a quality of life that is worth living and it's fair to the animal, because we don't want to put a prosthetic on it that's uncomfortable and make them live just to help us feel like we did what was right. But if they have a good quality of life, we place them in a facility where they can do conservation in a different way. So they may not be out breeding and reproducing, but they can go out and they can do education programs. So all of the birds we have with us belong to George T. McGowan Nature Park in the city of Largo, and we're actually partners. We're the yin and the yang. We do the ICU, and they do the permanent care. And their birds serve a dual purpose. So aside from doing education, they also do rehabilitation. So they assist in the rehabilitation of soldiers who are coming back with PTSD. So they're in partnership with Bay Pines, and the soldiers and these therapy groups come out, and they have the opportunity to work with birds of prey. So they learn the skills needed to work with them, and then they're assigned a bird. They start with screech owls, which are the smallest owls here in Florida, and they can work their way up through the birds at the park, all the way up to an eagle. So we do have one veteran who's on our eagle team right now, but they learn how to self-regulate and control because the bird provides you that feedback. So if I were to start to get really anxious, okay, my phone is ringing and it's vibrating. I think we're okay. So if I were to start to get anxious and tense, Eugene would change her behavior in her classroom, and I could get that visual before I might feel it inside myself. And go, okay, I'm getting tense, I need to relax, breathe, think about the bird, reconnect. So it gets them out of their head, it teaches them those coping skills, and it helps them to sense when those anxiety or panic moments are happening. So it's been a really important program that we get to help with as well. So we're helping not only the wildlife, but we're helping our own community get through rehabilitation. So do you guys have any questions? Awesome. Yes. Bird is like an indicator, much like a snake. I will never forget, I did not have a problem with snakes. Had a run-in with the Burmese when I was like 12, and when I got to high school, the boys thought it was really funny to put the ball python on me because I'd start to panic. And the teacher explained to me, the more I panicked, the more the snake was panicking. And that she wasn't trying to hurt me, she was getting tight because I was getting tight. And I had to learn to relax so that she would relax, and now I own 2 snakes. 30 years later. But the birds do the same thing. So if I start to get tense and really anxious, they're going to react to that, and they're going to start showing me some things that are going to go, oh, I must be getting anxious, I must be getting trembling. Try to figure out why it's happening, and I return home, and I'm not having to sit in a room and relive. Because a lot of therapy, that's what it is. Tell me what happened.